Hello, my friend. My name is Byron, and I'm from the BJJ Brick Podcast. I want to thank you for checking out the podcast on the YouTube channel here. It's a weekly show dedicated to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and having fun on the mats. Enjoy the show.
Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends. This is episode 229 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. Today we're talking about pressure, Jiu-Jitsu and pressure. A lot of pressure on us today. My name is Byron. I'm here with Joe and Gary. They just got back from picking out matching sweaters. They look fantastic. Gentlemen, today is pressure.
You look marvelous, Gary. Absolutely marvelous.
Well, I think it's the tank or the turtleneck sweater. You know, we talked about that a little bit last week. So, we got matching turtleneck sweaters.
I've been wearing a backpack too. Working on my rear choke defense.
You ever have those those backpacks that have the little strap that goes kind of across the collarbone and it kind of rides up close to your neck and you get a little nervous?
No, I never had one with a noose on it, Byron.
But I think this will be a great episode. A lot of times people will talk about technique and strategy, but something that you develop at sometimes a little bit later on in jiu-jitsu is how to add pressure to your game. Just make somebody feel that weight and really use gravity and body structure to your advantage and be able to really wear somebody out using just those things and not really get worn out at all yourself. And you don't have to be a big person. You don't have to be anything in particular to apply pressure as far as physical go. A lot to go on here, and we can't obviously tell you everything about pressure. Probably need to feel it and be taught it one-on-one, but we're going to cover a lot of things and give some tips for sure.
Yeah, and some of those tips are going to come from one of our favorite people when dealing with pressure, David Bowie.
Yes.
So now at that point,
you need to
play is Under Pressure.
But it's I don't know. I think it's a great idea for a topic, and it's something that we really don't cover in depth. So this will be a lot of good information for everybody. Something that we have that's a little bit new. We're getting, I guess, adjusted to it or really appreciating them is our sponsor, Health IQ. Go to the show notes. There'll be a link, and you can take their quiz and see if you qualify for their life insurance that they have. What they do is they find customers that have healthy lifestyles. And for a while, they've recognized people who run and weightlifting and cycling and triathletes and that sort of thing. Add Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to that list. So just for that reason alone, you train Jiu-Jitsu, it's likely that you'll probably live a little longer. And what happens with that is you should really pay a little less on your life insurance because you don't die quite as soon. It makes sense, and it's really a great thing that they're doing. They're finding out that it really works good to find particular clients, healthy ones, and insure them. And when they do that, it takes all the unhealthy people out of the pool of insured, and it makes the rates a lot lower.
And it only takes a few minutes. Both Gary and I have done some looking around on the website. It would only take a few minutes to go there and see if you qualify. And until you find that out, you won't really know how to move forward. So I'd encourage you to do that and check it out.
Yeah, definitely get your free quote today at healthiq.com/unique link, and we'll have a link to it right there on the show notes. Or if you happen to call them, definitely mention promo code unique link when you talk to your Health IQ agent. So definitely get your free quote today. Hey,
Gary, the unique link is BJJ Brick. That's just like a generic.
Okay, let's start this over.
You were doing so good, though, man.
You know, I have to be one of the top 5 dumbest guys around. But
hey, there's only 3 of us here, Gary. Give yourself a little credit.
Okay, to see if you qualify for these awesome special rates, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/BJJBrick. Or if you happen to call in to Health IQ, mention the promo code BJJBrick when you talk to your Health IQ agent.
Yep, or it's real easy. Go to the show notes, either on the website or on your phone right there. They'll pop right up if you're using a podcasting app, and click the link from there and get you started. And you could, it's amazing. You could buy life insurance, or at least investigate it over a good internet connection in your phone. And yeah, really a benefit towards people like us that are taking care of ourselves. And why not pay less for a great product?
You know, the one thing is, I think I might have just knocked myself out of that category.
Uh-oh.
When they just see how dumb I am that I said Unique Link instead of BJJ Brick.
You'll be all right, Gary.
Okay, thank you.
Well, gentlemen, I have an off-the-mat lesson. It takes us back way to when I was a little tiny Byron going to school. Like, I think in the 3rd grade, I trained schools. And I had a little buddy of mine they introduced me to. His name was Kurt, and his job was to show me around for the day, make sure I knew where everything was and how things went. And then I think in around 7th grade, I changed schools again, and I got matched up with this guy named Brock. And he showed me around. He was real cool, and it really seemed like he had it together. And I didn't become best friends with either Kurt or Brock, but what's amazing is I remember their names, and I was really appreciative of what they did for me. And probably a lot of that was the teacher set me up with what was a good kid and somebody who actually cared about other kids and would help them or me. The crazy thing about this is that I remember that they did this. I remember their names. I don't remember many people's names from my grade school days. And the way that I felt, like, I'm okay. This will be okay. I feel okay in the situation. Yes, it's a new school. Yes, it was intimidating. But I've got Kurt. I've got Brock here. And they're going to, take me through my first day and make sure that I'm okay. And I look at jiu-jitsu, and I would almost guarantee, reflect, wherever you're at listening right now, your first day on the mats. Who did that? Was there somebody that kind of helped you out and guided you through, or just partnered up with you and did technique? Do you remember that person? There's a good chance you do. And it's just because you're so much more nervous that day, and there's a lot more stress you're putting on yourself that doesn't really need to be there, just like at a new school. And I think it's really important to get the right people to help out these new students. And why not be that person? Because that sort of appreciation from the new student goes so far. If you have the personality that's kind of outgoing, or you really care how people perceive the school and you want them to have a good time while they're there, go up and volunteer to, hey, you're new, Gary, I'd like to partner up new technique with you when that comes through. And, if you need to use the locker room, it's over here, drinks are over here, and here's what to expect. That sort of thing goes a long ways. They'll remember that you did this. You took them under their wing, possibly as long as they're grappling, for 10, 20, 30 years. They could remember, I remember when Gary showed me around. It was a big deal. It seemed, like he really knew what was going on, and I really appreciated that. So I just I was reflecting about when I felt super lost going to school, and then it was okay because I had a buddy to help me out. And then, you walk into jiu-jitsu school, you feel super lost, a bit intimidated. Are they going to be choking me unconscious, breaking my arm and leg? Here's a buddy, Joe. He's going to show me some technique and tell me what to expect. And just that little bond that you get with that person, it may not take more than 1 or 2 days, like classes, and you really feel close to them, and like they're a big help. So why not be that person? Because it's a super easy way to make friends and meet a lot of cool people, and they really appreciate it.
Man, that's really awesome, Byron. One of the best off the mat lessons we've had, I think. I really like the idea that if you become that guy, it'll be contagious. So not only will you be giving the new guy a better experience, but you're just going to develop a gym full of people that are willing to sacrifice a little of their time on the mats to help you out, and you just develop a really good culture that way.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, Joe, too. It's you can see seems like the better gyms have that. It's contagious. As Byron said, one person, is outgoing and everybody else just follows right behind it, and you have a great gym. But, I think when my first day started, there was a guy named Jeff who kind of actually said hello to me, who drilled with me. He'd been training, a couple more weeks than I had, and, made me feel comfortable. And, the crazy thing is, like Byron said, he probably quit after 2 months, and here I am still going 15 years later, but I remember his name. So, yeah, that's definitely somebody I won't forget, somebody who made me feel comfortable that first day I went in.
Yeah, and here's another crazy thing, just to show you this impact that you have on people when they first walk in the door. I remember Jeff, and I don't think Jeff ever got his blue belt. He wasn't there for more than a year, like involved with the school, but you're just super aware and trying to grab things that will help you when you start jiu-jitsu. That Jeff also helped me out, and it was that's crazy, Gary. Like you remember the same guy, super nice guy. Wish he still trained. It looks like I actually have Jeff as a friend on Facebook, and he looks like he's in Hawaii, which isn't bad either. But
can't beat that.
It just goes to show the impact that initial person can make on you, and why not? I mean, really, we should be knocking each other over to take care of the new person this day. Instead, oftentimes you pair up with your old buddy, and the new person is left by themselves wondering who they're going to team up with. Man, that's a huge opportunity to make a great friend. If Jeff ignored us, I wouldn't have a clue who he was. You know what I mean?
Well, we may not even been training. You think about it. If you have a really, really bad experience that first day, you may not come back. I mean, it's just normal. You may not come back if you don't like something. And back then, that was the only gym in town. Who knows if we would ever rolled. I mean, just thinking about it now, I owe a lot to Jeff, just being nice to me that first day and being so nice to me that I came back for a second day.
So who's responsible for the BJJ Brick podcast? That's right, guys. Jeff.
There's a lot of people that are responsible for this thing we got going on.
But it all starts with Jeff. I don't even know his last name, but I know Jeff.
I'll tell you, Gary, and you can find him on my friends list on Facebook if you want to ever get a hold of the guy. But I mean, it's just crazy. And he might not even remember, us that well or at all. But because he was the nice guy, we remember him. We should be knocking each other down to help the new person that's at the gym that day, just for that impact alone. And a lot of times they go kind of ignored, and that's sad on both sides. So be like Jeff. Help some people out.
# be like Jeff.
That brings us to the point in the show where we usually talk about a quote. Gary, tell me what you think about this. Curiosity will conquer fear even more than bravery will. James and Stevens.
True, Joe.
How about an explanation?
What was I telling you earlier? That I'm one of the 5 dumbest guys you know.
Man, now I feel like I threw you under the bus. That wasn't my intention.
Byron will tell you I'd never get these quotes. You have to spell it out to me.
Well, I'm thinking that it could be curiosity. It could be other things. But I'm just thinking you need some motivation behind your bravery. You might be a brave guy in general, but if you don't have any motivation to walk into the fire, then all the bravery goes out the window. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And certainly curiosity. I mean, if you want to know why the chicken crossed the road, he was curious. Wanted to know what was on the other side, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess that's a little bravery too, because you're crossing the other side.
So the idea that a curious mind will get a lot done, even when it's a little scary, maybe. I think that off the mat, on the mat, whatever. Just the idea that if you're not interested in something, it's hard to be motivated to do that. And if something is kind of scary or is intimidating, or if switching jobs or careers or some big step like that, or moving to a different location and starting a new gym, let your curiosity take you somewhere where you might not have. A lot of times people will move to a different city, and that's it for their jiu-jitsu. Yeah, okay, I got my blue belt. I don't really want to go to a gym and start and be a blue belt, because all those blue belts are going to be trying to kill me, and I don't know anybody there. Just try to play the curious person. I wonder what this new gym will be like. I wonder what kind of instruction they're going to have. I wonder what kind of a new techniques they're going to show if I show up and watch a class today. Just sit off to the side and just kind of take the role of an observer. Just let curiosity feed that, and it will overcome that fear. Opposed to just trying to be super brave. And some people could go to a gym and not make a big deal, but a lot of people will actually drop off at the point of a move to a different city. But instead of just trying to be like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be brave, and then you're putting up a wall that doesn't even need to be there. Be curious. Don't necessarily have to be brave. Just wonder what it's going to be like at this new place. And on and off the mat, anytime you find yourself being a little nervous, try to switch that with curiosity and discover what's going to happen next. And it's just a different outlook on life. And like Joe said, I think that was really cool. It doesn't need to be curiosity, but you need something that will drive you to give you kind of a reason to move on something.
And for more fun for the white belts out there, just I wonder if I can tap that black belt.
That won't go very well.
Well, yes, you can. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in time, and probably with a little bit of help from the actual black belt, they'll help get you there.
Absolutely.
Because I've trained with people who I thought I was light years ahead of, and give them 6 or 7 years, and man, it's amazing how good people can get at jiu-jitsu, especially if they're getting help from people that they're rolling with. It doesn't take that long either. But yeah, maybe not today, but eventually, yes, you'll be as good as the person you're training with potentially.
The crazy thing is, I look at some of these top competitors today, and they start talking about themselves, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I've been training 7 years." And I start thinking, man, I've trained a lot longer than that. And this guy would wipe the mat with me. And it's like, hey, something's wrong with me. But it's, people train differently. There's physical stature, there's age, all sorts of stuff in there. But, yeah, like Byron said, people who have been training a short time can get very, very good. So, just keep getting at it. You keep training. You're going to get to that point.
Throw a quick plug in for our audio book. Your first year of BJJ. If you're in that first year and you're curious about jiu-jitsu, maybe haven't even started, check out the audiobook. It's $11.99. The money helps the podcast keep going. It's about 2.5 hours of basically kind of like a big podcast about how to start jiu-jitsu. Get you from your first year up to competing if that's what you're interested in. There'll be a link to it in the show notes. And that brings us to the topic of pressure, gentlemen.
Do.
Yeah, we spent a pretty good deal of time talking about helping other people. Now let's talk about pressuring the life out of them.
Smashing people.
That's a good point. I try to be fun and enjoyable while I'm rolling on the mat, but I totally confess that if I'm applying pressure, it's probably as mean as I get on the mat is to just to apply pressure.
Fun and enjoyable on the mat?
I don't do a lot of cross faces.
Joe, I was rolling with Byron yesterday. He's kind of got my back. He's got this little side control kind of back take, and he reaches around, cuffs my chin, and turns my chin as far as possible the other way, kind of like I was an extra on The Exorcist. And
so he had your back, and for a moment you were looking deeply into his eyes.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's Byron being nice to me.
I did get my butt kicked the rest of the roll. No excuses there. But I do, all the stuff in jiu-jitsu, I think pressure is one of the things that really makes people change the way they're moving. I'll tell a little story here. Really the first time I felt a lot of pressure was from a guy we've had on the show, a small person physically, about 140, maybe 145 pounds, Renato Tavares. You'll find him training out of Florida. Amazing guy, but yeah, short, not heavy, and he's quick. So he just passes through my guard like it's nothing. And I was probably purple belt, not 100% sure, but that's what I think I was at the time. And he gets side control, and I had never felt pressure that he was applying from somebody who was 250 pounds. But I have Renato 240, 245, 140 or 145, right around that range. And I can hardly stand it. He's absolutely crushing me, and I just am so confused and so lost and like feeling of helplessness. And I don't know how disoriented I was. Maybe his gi was over my face. Maybe my gi was wrapped around my face. I don't know what was happening. But I legitimately said, is somebody else pushing on top of you. Like I thought they were having a joke at me. Like I thought somebody was like sitting on Hanato's back as he's crushing me in side control. Like clearly this is impossible. And he let me see, like he got off my head a little bit, and no, it was just him. It was just his 145-pound frame on me, crushing me, and I just couldn't believe it. And not that I was a big guy, probably 160, 165. I've basically been that weight the whole time. But to not feel that pressure from so many people I rolled with that were in the mid-200s, and then to feel it from him, a master at jiu-jitsu, but so much smaller. It was so confusing as how this was being done. And as I've learned since then a little bit more about pressure, and I hope to share that today and learn from you guys too, I could apply more pressure, but there's always a little bit more you could apply to somebody. And you know, reflecting back on that, he was doing that 100% on purpose. Like he wanted to see my reaction to what was a ton of pressure put on by a small person, and just to see how I'd react. And my reaction was disbelief. I could hardly believe it. And so I find myself doing that sometimes too. I'll get somebody who's big, maybe over 230, and just maybe a little bit more wild than that I prefer to grapple with sometimes. And I just decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to let them feel some weight of jiu-jitsu. And to get a pressure tap is actually pretty rewarding. I know it's not the nicest thing to do, but it's pretty impressive. And then I can't believe I tap from pressure from you, and not as an insult, but as you don't have the weight to do that to me. And I've heard it many times, and I'm sure a lot of people have. It's just a different aspect of the game that's not like a submission or a choke or even a sweep. It's just I don't understand what's happening. Man, this person feels like they weigh a ton. Do you guys have any stories or anything about like maybe the first time you felt a lot of pressure or anything like that?
Yeah, when I roll with you, Byron. No, Byron, like you said, he's 160 pounds, got little skinny arms, little skinny neck. His legs are really skinny. Yep. Doesn't have any, no six pack or nothing. It's kind of flabby in the middle. But I will tell you, Byron, when you pass, you have some serious pressure. And, that's probably one of the, reasons why you've really focused on your pressure when Hanato did that to you. It opened up your eyes, and you have always focused on pressure. And I do get a lot of people that, talk to me and have trained with you and like, man, Byron is just heavy when he gets side control. And the guys you trained with, Fox, he leads it all. He's a big pressure guy. Matt Lowe, another big pressure guy. Jake Smith, big pressure guy. You train with guys that just like to smash, and that's great. There's it's a lot of technique to be able to do that, knowing so much stuff, but it's brutal. When you're under there, you're wanting to get out. You make a mistake because you're doing anything possible to get out of that, and you leave a limb open, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, I wonder if the smaller guys get better at putting pressure on because they feel they have license to use it more often. I think some big guys shy away from using pressure a little bit. If you outweigh your opponent by 60 or 80 pounds. And,
true.
It's not always looked at as the coolest thing to do to crush them. But I'm with you guys. I'm always amazed when a 140-pound guy can keep you pinned on your back. And you'd think my bench press technique would be enough to get them off, but they're always able to put the pressure just in the right spot. And that's probably as key as how much pressure they put is where they put it.
That's a really good point, Joe, because there are, I've dealt with some people who've got good pressure, but, I have been able to push them off. And then there's the people who are, like you said, got the angles, know exactly where to put it. And, you can't even move. It's stifling. It's brutal.
So, Joe, do you have a specific instance that you were rolling and somebody that surprised you was just crushing you physically?
When I first started, I trained with Nick Unander, and he applied pressure from every position you rolled with him. And I remember it was the way that he applies pressure. It's an anaconda style. If he gets on your side and he's pushing, he'll wait till you breathe out And then it just put a little more pressure, just a little more pressure. So you start thinking, okay, we're in this position, I'm going to be okay. And then as every second passes, it just closes in more and more. And so I think I learned a lot about patience from that guy and the way he applied it.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, the anaconda idea behind pressure and kind of timing and adding as you go. What do you guys do when you're being crushed?
Quit.
No, you don't.
Well, that's what we want to do. I think one of the big things is, first of all, you have to stay calm, because that's one of the parts that, I think the first part, when you feel that stifling pressure, you kind of spaz out. And as I said earlier, you may start flailing around and give up a limb. But, you have to stay calm, try to get off your back. I'll try to shrimp if I can get even just an inch, every little bit. I try to get out on my side, maybe readjust my arms, anything to, try to take a little bit of that pressure off. But I think the first key is, you just have to stay calm. It's not easy, but that's, in my opinion, the very, very first thing you need to do.
I like one of our guests recently talked about when she's in a bad position, just trying to improve the situation by 1%. And
Yep.
I think that mentally, that's kind of an important thing when you're getting crushed. Ideally, I want to get my frames in and get on my side or whatever. I've got like an end goal where I can get to I'm comfortable and then start working. But man, if I can just get one arm in position to create a frame and then just get the other arm in the position to create a frame and then start building that frame. But it starts with just a 1% improvement.
Yeah, and
that's a great tip.
I believe that was episode 220 with Jess Munter. She's
Correct.
an adaptive athlete. That's a great way to just help yourself not freak out, because you are so far from being in a good position sometimes, but just make it a little bit better and just try to survive. Something that Chris Easter told me, who we've interviewed before, and I haven't looked that one up yet, but he's on there as well as far as past episodes. He said, just know that you can tap out if you need to. If you're in a bad spot, the choke is pretty tight, but it's not quite there, just don't panic. Just know that, yes, there's a way out of this, and that could be tapping. and that will help you not be like scared of what's happening to you, because they'll let up immediately if you ask them to, which is tap or say, I'm good, I can't do it. And we kind of tease about quitting or tapping out to pressure. I have some ribs on one of my sides. That's where they put the ribs anyway. One of my sides.
Too.
They're also on your front and back too, Byron.
They don't take pressure. So it doesn't happen very often, but it's more like maybe a weird situation where something is against my ribs. I can't think of an instance that's happened in the past year or so, but I will say, hey, man, I can't do that. Actually, we used to have a very large guy who would put me in close guard and squeeze with his legs, and that would be right on my ribs. And I would say, hey, I can't do that, man. Tap. You're going to break my ribs again. And so, good. We'll just start again, and nothing like having a large person try to crush you with their close guard and have a lot of success with it. Yeah, it was a little frustrating, but I didn't let him injure my ribs. So if you feel like you're going to get injured, tap. Not a big deal. People tap pressure more than you would think. And just this thing that Chris told me is like, try to relax and know that you're going to be okay, because you can tap when you need to. Just try to make it a little bit longer and see where you can go with it. And I think that's helped me a lot. Just like, I'm confused. I don't really know how to deal with this. Let's see if this works. And just all in the back of my mind, I can get out safely by asking them to stop, has helped me stay calm a lot of times when I'm in a bad spot.
Byron, something I just thought about. I don't know what you said that brought this to mind. I've never thought about it this way before, but I can't count the number of times in training that people let go of a choke that they really had, and they let go just a few seconds before I tap. And I think I do a really good job of disguising the discomfort that I'm in and the trouble that I'm in. I just try and relax, and the other guy, he might have the choke and not even know it. And if you can just relax, just buy another few seconds, he'll go on to something else.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. I think about that all the time. I'm in a submission or I'm applying the submission, and you really don't, let's say I'm the one applying it. The guy's not gurgling. He's not really, moving around like it's bothering him. And, sooner or later, I'm going to move on to something else. And that's a good thing, talking about, being on the other side of pressure. Like we said, stay calm and, hopefully, I'm not making all sorts of strange noises with the pressure. And, maybe he'll move on, go north, south, or wherever else and take a little bit of that pressure off. And that's the time to, when the guy does move, if you do bait him into moving, that's the time to then, as Joe was talking about, we're moving in, 1%. At that point, we're going to move a lot more than 1%, and try to get in a good position to defend that.
Yeah, and if you are the opposite of that, so you're applying a choke or something like that, and you feel like, well, I don't think this is working. Know that it can be working, and you may not quite feel it quite yet. And also, don't transition to nothing. Take the time and think, what can be done from here? What can I set up as I'm changing this, not abandoning this? And because you have the time, because they're largely stuck, and which really helps give you time to think and think about, okay, you know what? This choke, I think this is a dead end. I'm not going to let go. But what's after this? I don't just want to let go and say, I didn't get it. I want to let go and put him in another trouble spot. And man, yeah, that's a great way to add transitions to your game, which is a whole nother topic, not pressure related.
That is in 4 weeks.
Actually, Byron, that is pressure related. I thought of it while you were talking, that the difference between a guy that applies great pressure and a guy that doesn't so much is in the transitions, the pressure disappears.
Yeah, that there's a lot to be had in the transitions, and you look at high level jiu-jitsu, watch the transitions between moves and positions, and you'll really see kind of where the magic is a lot of times.
It's like when you're a mountain, you're going for the arm bar. A lot of guys they keep that pressure on your chest the whole time, and a guy who's maybe a little new at it, not as good, they lift up when they swing that other leg around, and the pressure is completely relieved for a second, and a little bit of space is created, and generally it's enough to get that elbow out, and you're okay. When a guy that's got great side control pressure and he's good at it, he can go north-south, he can go to the other side, he can go knee on belly, then to mount, and the entire time he's moving around, you feel the pressure.
Yeah, the pressure is just brutal, like you said, on that guy, and the other crazy part is he's moving around because he's so tight to you. There's no space anywhere as he's moving around from side mount to, north, south, and just keeps going. Your limbs are getting caught. Not only are you bearing his weight, next thing you know, your elbows caught, your arms being driven above your head. It's very uncomfortable on top of the pressure you're getting. So it's even worse, I guess you could say, once he starts moving and capturing other limbs and just applying the pressure there.
So to look at if you're getting crushed, what you should do, there's a lot of things that we can't really describe, but one thing that I generally tell somebody is to try to build up a frame, because clearly if you're being crushed, you're not supporting the weight of this person with a structure that could handle that. So kind of frame up if you can, and however that is, side control is an easy one maybe to explain, is by putting your arms between you guys instead of having them on the outside, or even sometimes people will wrap them around the person and hold them there. That's doing nothing to relieve any pressure. So getting your arms between you, shrimping, getting to your side, that'll relieve a lot of pressure and help out, get that pressure off of there. And it's one thing that people do that we will do in class is shrimp, and you shrimp it down the mat and you practice escaping, sure. And then a lot of times when somebody shrimps from side control to escape, they just kind of turn. And I'm like, that is not you did not actually shrimp. You just altered your body slightly. Make it, and I tell them, jumbo shrimp buffet. Big shrimps and a lot of them. A lot of times, if you can get your arms in position and then start shrimping, jumbo shrimps, Make it a buffet because it's going to take more than one or two. Not only will you relieve that pressure, but you'll get out.
Yeah, none of that popcorn shrimp. It definitely use the jumbo shrimp.
Sauteed with butter and garlic.
Yeah.
Because the butter will allow you to slip away from your opponent.
Yeah, there you go.
Gotta be oiled up for the match.
So that's just maybe some buttery tips about what to do if you are being crushed. But we want to look at it from the offensive side of things. How do you better apply pressure to somebody? Do you guys have any good pressure advice or maybe positions that you like to apply pressure from?
I think the big thing is, keep your knees off the mat. When I first started, my knees were always on the mat. I wasn't really big into applying pressure. I was learning the moves and everything, but, keeping my weight on my opponent's weight or on my opponent. Even that goes to using, pushing off, using being up on my toes too, pushing into the person. And kind of like what Joe was saying earlier, knowing how to put your weight, like I used to sit Kasagatami and my whole body would be on the floor. I'm taking all the weight off. Now, as I move to Kasagatami, my weight's on that person. So big thing is I'm just physically thinking about, I've got this weird thing. I think about whatever body part I have, let's say it be my shoulder that I'm trying to pin somebody down with. I think about when I'm in that position, how to apply all the pressure, like what ways can I maximize my body? I think of it kind of like a ray, going right down my shoulder into this guy's jaw. How do I need to turn my body? What do I need to do to deliver all my force into that one spot? I'm always, when I do get a good position and I've got the person locked down a little bit, I'll start thinking about that. How can I, just put every possible thing right there?
Nice, Gary. Sounds like you've put a lot of thought into that. It's almost a little scary.
Well, if I put a lot of thought into stuff, remember what we've talked about earlier today. I'm not the brightest, so it could backfire on me.
No, but you said that perfectly. I really like the part about pushing off with your toes. And, so when you're in side control, if you take your typical 6 months in white belt side control where you're on your knees and then you just lift your knees off, that applies a little more pressure. If you drive from your toes from right there, you'll kind of just scoot across the guy. But, man, if you lower your chest down just a little bit towards the side that you're on of your opponent and then drive into him, it really has a crushing effect. And, a lot of that just comes with trial and error. So find a training partner that will go back and forth with you and can take the pressure and just spend some time working on it and playing with it.
Yeah, the idea you have to find it is a concept that most people don't really understand when you start out. It's going to be different on everybody because you're working with their body, not necessarily your body. Here's a concept. I was trying to think of a way to explain this and make it easy to understand via an audio podcast. Think of a balloon. Are you guys thinking about balloons?
Yes.
99 red ones, actually.
Okay. So we've got a red balloon. We'll just need one. This red balloon. And you put it on the ground because it doesn't have helium, and it's just sitting there. And you just kind of push on the top of it, and it squeezes out to the sides a little bit. It's not super inflated. It's a little bit stretchy, right? So if you push down on top, it squeezes out the sides, makes kind of a different shape. And the balloon is able to take that pressure and move it to the sides. So if you put that balloon in constraints, like a shoebox maybe, or something, a shoebox that's made out of wood instead of cardboard, something that's sturdy, and then you push on the top, it can't scoot out the sides anymore, and that the pressure is getting dumped into the sides. It's getting crushed on the side walls. It's not expanding where it should be, and it feels a lot heavier. And so look at that. Instead of a balloon, instead of 99 red balloons, just think of two nice lungs with the rib cage around them, and by just pushing on top of that, the rib cage will flex off to the sides a little bit, and that's where the pressure is going. So if you are able to kind of squeeze in on the sides of the ribs a little bit, and then push on the top, they just get this total crushing feeling, and it makes it really hard to breathe and it makes it very uncomfortable. So side control, sticking with that, turn your body towards their head a little bit. You bring your elbow that's on the far side in, touch the ribs, and then bring it in like another inch or two. So it's kind of like almost underneath, or it's like starting at a point where it should be underneath, but it's actually crunched the ribs. You could feel them. I actually try to feel the ribs move a little bit. Like, okay, I've compressed the ribs this way. And then I do the same thing with my side, which is either going to be my hip or my actual ribs themselves. And I feel for where the ribs are located, and I push them, and I feel them move, and they flex a little bit. And once I've done that to both sides, then I push kind of down with my weight. And I'm not getting enough weight to, like, sure, it'd be heavier to stand on their ribs, but it feels like I'm more than standing on the ribs because there's no place for their ribs to flex and go. It feels like you're getting crushed. And that's really one of the first things I've learned about applying pressure to somebody is to squeeze the ribs and then apply pressure on top of that. And it gives you the sensation like you can't breathe, because it is very difficult to breathe when that's happening to you.
Man, Byron, I want to tap out just after listening to your explanation. But yeah, I mean, that's an incredible explanation right there. I really like what you're saying, and me being on the other side of it, it's funny, I can see those steps, as you take out my far rib, and then use your hips, and you take out my near rib, and then you smash my top. And that's a great explanation. And as you're explaining it, I'm like, man, this guy is like a surgeon, he's got his PhD in pressure. And, that's a great explanation. I never thought of it that way. And just listen to what you said about, smashing each side, trying to compress the rib cage, feeling for it. I think that is definitely just that little, what you just said right there is going to help my pressure.
Yeah, I like that. It can be applied to other positions as well, I think. When your opponent's trying to triangle you or arm bar you, if you get to the point where your last defense is to stack them and you're trying to stack them, you really got to have their torso and, like Byron said, a small box, and you got to have their knees right above them and just be driving right down into them. Because, if they can cut an angle, create some space by moving out to the side, you might still be able to escape the position, but you're not going to be applying the pressure you are like when you have their knees right over their shoulders or their chin.
Yeah, so we're really altering the frame of their body, and then once it's in the altered state, we're applying pressure to that. And,
and that's a big point, like you said, the frame of their body. As we're doing jiu-jitsu, when we're on offense, we're trying to make everything to our advantage. We're trying to make our opponent structurally weak. We're cross-facing. We're lifting the head up off the mat and turning it. I remember, Byron, you were doing a jiu-jitsu seminar, or you were doing a triangle seminar one time, and I didn't get it at the point you were telling me. I was too new in the jiu-jitsu journey where it didn't make as much sense to me, but now I don't just use it on triangle. I use it for every position. But you would always talk about, as we're trying to get them in the triangle, grabbing the head, the crown of the head, and moving the head around to make them structurally weak, like pushing their head to the side and stuff like that. And it really didn't hit, at that point to me. But now, I find the very first thing is as I get mount, I'm not leaving that head and that spine in a nice straight frame. I'm trying to, make that spine crooked, trying to give the guy scoliosis. I'm trying to, turn the head, anything to make that guy weak. That's just going to make me stronger. But yeah, so we want to make our opponent, we want to turn that spine. We want to twist that spine. We want to have those knees behind the head, anything to make it uncomfortable and to put us in a better position.
Yeah, guys that have good pressure passing systems,
brutal.
Man, there comes a point in time where sometimes you're just like, please just finish the pass, man.
Yeah.
You're killing me.
you let it happen. There's so many times. Yeah, I'm just like, hey, anything to let this happen. I'll even push him into place. I feel like all my ribs are about to pop out, and then it's like, thank you, once that pass happens. But then normally that guy who's got that crazy pressure pass, as soon as he cements side control, I'm in trouble there too. But pressure is brutal.
one more tip on side control pressure. So mostly we've been talking about pressure on the ribs, I guess, or breathing. Mentioned a little bit about twisting of the back. It really seems to add a lot of pressure or just make things uncomfortable. And then, of course, pressure on the face or neck. I don't know how you describe it. Just making somebody look the other way really can be troublesome to somebody by applying. Let's put it back in side control. I've got I'm on Gary's left-handed side. I have my right arm underneath his head, and my left arm is underneath his right arm. If you can follow all that, great. You got a good mind's eye, and so my shoulder is on Gary's face, and I'm pushing his face away from me, and I'm shouldering down on his face. Very sensitive. If I did that to Gary's shoulder or his arm or his leg, he wouldn't care. But if it's his face, that kind of sucks to be getting kind of smashed on there. And I think ribs get the biggest reaction. The face, keep your mouth closed, kind of lock down a little bit, and your face can take a lot of pressure, but it is very uncomfortable, and you do get big reactions from people when you apply pressure to their face.
Yeah, and I think that's where Gary's idea about drawing a laser line through the point of force comes into play. Because with that shoulder pressure, if you're still maintaining a lot of chest pressure, you're not going to maximize the shoulder pressure. Sometimes it's got to be one or the other. And yeah, if you draw a laser line right through your shoulder, through their chin, and to the floor, and follow that line, it's a miserable day.
Yeah, I watched a video one time with Rob Kahn from Gracie Baja, and I had watched it over and over just to get better at shoulder pressure. And I, from what I hear, he's never felt it, but I hear he's like the best at shoulder pressure. And man, just if you Google it, you'll see a great video from him, and I learned a lot from it. And that's one of the big things is just think of that. As Joe was saying, that laser line of putting all your pressure in there. And he also takes the underhooked arm, when he's digging that pressure, and he'll take the, let's say I'm on the left side, he'll take that underhook arm and even pull that shoulder back, to even put more pressure in. And once I started doing that just, made even that much of a difference. And, it's brutal.
Yeah, you pull that other arm, that's just like compressing them into a smaller and smaller box.
Yeah.
So I think side control for me is my favorite place. If somebody says tap somebody with pressure, I'm going to side. I'm trying to do it there. I have pretty good experience with crushing pressure from back mount when they go belly down or when I force belly down. That could be a lot of pressure, and that again, a lot of that is because their back is really kind of being stretched a little bit. They're on their ribs and they're getting squeezed as well. Just a miserable place to be. Those probably are my two most pressure places that I have to go to. Do you guys have anything other than that? I mean, mounts always got a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure in passing, but what are you guys' top two places to apply pressure from?
Well, I don't go here very often, but the most satisfying is knee on belly. When you're in the gi and you have a hold of the gi behind their neck and you have a hold of their belt and you put that knee in and you just pull your shoulders up and arch your back and pull and push at the same time. I find that to be pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. That not that I don't train in the gi that often, so it's really not my big pressure position. But being on the bottom of that one is brutal. And like Joe said, when somebody's got the collar and pants or whatever, and can pull up on it, that's even worse. That's a position I don't like to be under.
Yeah, that's one you can't ignore. Some top pressure, you can sort of tough it out, bide your time, and try for that 1% improvement. But man, with a good solid knee on belly, it's like I gotta finish this now. I gotta get this off now. So that's probably my most satisfying. But I also like to apply pressure from when my opponent's turtled from north south, and I guess it's not quite as much the crushing pressure, but just keep pressure and sort of play a wrestler's game, and they try and get to their feet and you throw them on the other shoulder. You just always, anytime they think they're going to improve position, you just slam them on the other side. And maybe it's a different pressure, but I think that's my second favorite way to do it.
Yeah, I like what you're talking about there, Joe. I also like turtle. But my favorite pressure position is from turtle, but spiral riding. I just love to, pass the arm and get in referee's position and just spiral ride. I can put really good pressure on the hips, from that position. If it starts looking up with his head, I'll put pressure down with my forearm on the head, and it allows me to relax for a second. And, I kind of like almost on that far side where I got the spiral ride in, I kind of flex my arm a little bit like I'm doing a tricep pose. And, I just hear the air go out of people, and as their lower rib cage gets crushed in. And that's one of my that probably is my favorite by far pressure position.
So who are we applying pressure to, I guess?
Everybody.
I don't, I know you say that, but I know you don't. I apply pressure when it's a competitive role and I have the opportunity to. If it's not, granted, I get tapped out in non-competitive roles all the time. Like I could be rolling with somebody who is not nearly as skilled as me, and if they get on my back, I legitimately get tapped out. Not a big deal. But if somebody I know starting the match is going to give me a good match, and it's going to be a lot of work, I get the opportunity to apply pressure, I'm going to apply that. But somebody who's fairly new, I don't usually apply much pressure to those people because it does take some of the fun out of it, and there's not a whole lot of answers that they necessarily have for that situation. So, I definitely back off the pressure on newer students, on people who are just smaller frame than me. I don't, like Joe kind of alluded to that. Like, it's not super acceptable for the huge guy to be pressuring everybody. And I'm, very fortunate to have a lot of bigger teammates that go out of their way to not crush, because at some of these weights, injuries could happen very quickly just by accident, just by them doing the pressure thing with me with no frames. I could get injured, and I feel like sometimes I feel like they're crushing me. Sometimes I feel like, okay, you know what, he could crush me more if he wanted to, and they're really letting they're saving that for the equally matched person as far as size goes. So yeah. Maybe that's why Gary always gets the pressure from me if I can apply it, because if I don't, I'm going to pay for it in other ways, by getting submitted or choked or whatever. But if I feel like it's more of a loose pace match, or we're just having fun, there's no need to bring a bunch of pressure in on that.
Yeah, good point, Byron. Because really my favorite way to roll is like what you just mentioned just a minute ago, the loose pace match. I just like to flow, go back and forth. Let's try to get stuff. I'll pass. I won't cement pressure. I'll let them escape. Let us run through there. But and then the newer people too, I won't smash. Most of the time, I'll let them work their position. I'll be on the bottom. I'll let them just work, and I'll give some resistance, but let them explore a little bit. But I guess because I'm really not very competitive anymore. For me, it's all fun. But there are people who I know are going to bring it, and when I know I'm going against somebody who's going to bring it, that pressure is coming out. I'm going to use that pressure and hopefully to make somebody make a mistake. That's pressure is trying to make somebody make a mistake where I can capture a limb. I'm not here to hold you on the ground for 5 minutes. I'm here to capture an arm. I'm here to capture a neck. I'm here to capture a leg. I want a submission. That's in my opinion the most sweeps and submissions are the fun part. So I'm going to apply that pressure in competitive matches, to get to the end result of a finish.
You know who I do try and crush on the mats?
Me?
My best friends. It kind of seems like I'm with you guys. I don't smash the new guy, and I don't smash the 135-pound 17-year-old that's a year in. It seems like the roles that are most competitive, where there's the most back and forth pressure, are the guys that I spend the most time rolling with, the guys that I would consider my best friends on the mats. We almost have like an unwritten rule. If I crush you one round, then the next time we roll, I'll play a little more defense or something, or vice versa. And And we just kind of go back and forth, and everybody gets a good taste and a good, healthy roll.
A lot of it is who your teammate is or who your opponent is. Now, in a tournament setting or a competition setting, if you could apply pressure, apply pressure. There's no reason to play a loose game unless you're trying to trick them into doing something, because there is a time value with pressure. If you could apply pressure for 10 seconds, okay, they had to deal with that and they got over that. If you could apply pressure for 3 minutes, they're not going to be the same grappler that you were grappling against when that 3 minutes is over. They're going to be a lot more fatigued. They're going to be scared of the position again. It's just going to kind of change the way the match unfolds. So, like Gary, he doesn't want to hold you there forever, but if you could hold somebody there for a little while and you kind of feel them changing and like maybe they give up a little bit, or maybe is they're questioning, why did I sign up for this tournament? That sort of thing. It does. I think there's a lot of time value in pressure, because anybody can take pressure for a few seconds. But if you get stuck in a high pressure area for 3 minutes or however long that's your time, when that pressure's over, when you get out of that finally, you're a little bit different of a grappler for at least the rest of that round. It's going to change the way you're moving.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't think I concentrate on enough is the time value. Oftentimes I'll put a little pressure on somebody and I'll stop after a few 30 seconds maybe, just because I don't want to sit there and crush the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes, if you just hold that pressure for another 15 or 20 seconds and just keep adjusting it so it's more and more, they'll make the mistake you're looking for, and you can exploit that. Another thing with that time value, Byron, is generally speaking, when you're applying pressure, it's going to be far more fatiguing to them than it is to you. But that becomes less true if you're not using good technique to apply the pressure. A big, strong, muscular guy can muscle a lot of pressure, but that's going to be fatiguing to him as well. So you want to use good technique. Think about Gary's laser focus through your body into the floor, and use that and steady your muscles.
Yeah, and you just think about it. I always look at it like a video game where you have energy levels. And, if I'm using good technique, like Joe says, I'm just thinking in my head that I just see my opponent's energy levels just going down really quick where mine's barely moving. And like Joe said, you want to use a good technique. I don't want to be using my muscles and just squeezing people. I want to find a way to maximize my leverage and technique without, and making my opponent fatigue much quicker than me.
And if you get enough energy level built up, then you can press square, square, triangle, circle for that special trick.
That's my favorite there, Joe.
That's pretty good. But, it's not – I don't recommend you crush your teammates while you're rolling in class for most of the roll. But just be aware, if you're in a tournament or if you're in a competitive setting and you can apply several minutes of pressure to somebody, that's a good strategy to do. And just like we were talking about when to let off the submission and transition to something, don't just let off of the pressure. If they escape, they escaped. But if you could go pressure, 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 and then go to a submission from that, and they'll be busy like taking that deep breath as you set up your submission and close the door on that, it's going to be a lot easier for you.
You know what the worst is? When somebody's applying just terrible pressure to me and like we're talking, I'm at like the 30-second mark and I can probably only go another 15 seconds. And for some reason, maybe he moves and lets up pressure a little bit. And all of a sudden I just scramble as fast as I can. And all of a sudden that pressure's coming off my ribs. And I'm like, yes, I'm basically so close to getting out. I'm about there. And then by the time that thought is coming into your head, you just realize you're caught in a deep submission. And you thought you got out, and then next thing you know, you just got led down another path.
So true, Gary, so true.
But all you got to do when you're in that position, as Joe said, it's square, square, circle, and you'll be okay.
PlayStation, right? It has the squares and circles versus the A and B from the Nintendo, and I don't remember what Xbox is. Oh, man. So a lot of pressure this episode, but I think we've covered some good stuff. It's not really an attribute. It's not like speed or strength. It's not really a technique like an arm bar or a shrimp or a guard pull. It's a part of the game that you could do and it's really hard to try to quantify. But when you're doing it correctly, it has a huge effect on the way things are going. And if it's being done to you, you'll know that it has a big effect on the way you're able to grapple. So it's definitely worth adding some pressure to your game. And if you're strictly a guard player and you haven't got your sweeps down that you can play at the top game yet, you're fairly new at getting on top and playing a top dominant game, it may not be the time to really study pressure. You still have to work on your guard a little bit and maybe work on your sweeps. But if you're a side control person, or you like to play top, or you've got some good guard passes, but you really don't feel like you're pressurizing anything below you, maybe look into that, and you'll find that they will give you opportunities to apply submissions that they really wouldn't hand you otherwise. It's kind of like what Joe was saying. Once this person applies enough pressure to my guard, I'm happy that they pass. Once this person crushes me, this way from side control, I'm happy they're attempting the arm bar. Yes, try that. I'm going to try to get out of that instead because I can't take it much longer. And, we do talk a lot about jiu-jitsu and keeping it fun and enjoyable. And that's why I think that's important to stress one more time. Who are you putting the pressure on? Put it on competitive roles. If you're just crushing somebody because they're new, you're really doing it wrong. You're not doing any service to them. You're not doing service to yourself. It needs to be competitive roles. So, yes, your white belt, you can apply pressure. Anybody you want to, anybody who's competitive. Maybe not the first day white belts or the brand new ones, but if you're a purple belt and you're crushing all the white belts with pressure, you're kind of getting onto the jerk side of being on the mat, maybe even a little mat bully. So apply pressure when it's appropriate and work it into your game. I think you'll have a lot of things presented to you from that.
Hey, this week our articles, make sure you drop these bad habits before you get your blue belt. And
it's on TikTok, BJJ.com. We'll put a link to it in the show notes so you can check it out.
From TikTok Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in North Charleston, South Carolina. So if you happen to be out that way, you live in there, check out TikTok Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Or if you happen to be vacationing, Charleston's a great vacation place. Definitely check it out. But like we said, some bad habits that you need to drop before you get your blue belt. And, when you first start, we really don't know what's going on, unless you have a bunch of friends who train jiu-jitsu and you were the only one who did it. And as jiu-jitsu guys, that's all we do is talk about jiu-jitsu. So you at least know a little bit about it. But he goes on and talks about some stuff that you need to drop around that time. And number one is spazzing. And you have heard us on this show numerous times talk about spazzing, and I think we've all had that person that, we said, hey, this guy's a spaz. I don't really like to roll with him. And to be honest, we've probably been there before ourselves, and basically a spaz is the person who may not really be able to control himself, control his body, control your body as he's moving around, to get better positions. You may get hit by knees and elbows. Headbutts, are common as, pass and, leads with the head. And that's something, as jiu-jitsu, just take it slower. Let's work on that control. Let's have the good technique. Speed kills, especially when you're first starting. We want to be fast, but it's a long process. As I always say, it's a marathon. We're not going to be able to do a guard pass fast with good technique right off the bat. Let's go slow. Let's remember all the steps. It doesn't need to be herky-jerky. Let's just go slow, keep repping over and over again, and pretty soon you'll get rid of that spazzing. Realize it's about technique is going to take you a lot farther in the long run than muscling through and, the herky-jerky movements, the explosive, crazy movements. So just work on technique, control your body, and as we say, don't be that spaz.
Yeah, I like that one, Gary. If you're out there and you think you might still be spazzing out a little bit, there's two things to look at. One of them is, are you too amped up when you're going into the match? A lot of guys are spazzing out because it's just go, win a gold medal every round. And you got to calm down a little bit and you got to breathe. And a lot of guys, as they're getting closer to blue belt, if they're still spazzing, then a lot of times it's because they don't have their ego in check and they're not going to get swept at all costs, or they're not going to get submitted at all costs. They get in a bad position and they're just going to explode like a wounded cougar and they're not going to give you nothing. So if that's you, then check your ego. And I know for me that was something I dealt with, and it's an ongoing process.
You know what I really liked about that, Joe? is you have started using my wounded cougar. You know, I'm happy. That just made my day.
I knew you would comment on that, Gary.
Hey, if I could spread the word wounded cougar around, I'm happy.
Yeah, but Gary is also he likes cougars. He doesn't want them to be wounded, so he's not for that sort of activity. But going down the list, he's got a lot of different things that he talks about things to stop doing or things that maybe change or reflect on before you get your blue belt. Muscling your way into a submission, I think this is a big one. Really muscling your way through anything, you're going to have to eventually drop that. And you can still muscle your way into submissions and that sort of thing at the blue belt level. You're going to find them. I really find that purple belt, those guys will deal with your muscle and your force so effectively, especially with the gi, that you can't muscle a lot of purple belts. And so, you know what? It'd be a good time to just get away from that a little bit, especially if you're one of the bigger or stronger people, and try to muscle less. And he's not saying muscling a submission, muscling your way into a submission. So just the setup itself. Find more clever ways to get there. And one of the better ways to find submissions is to look at what they're presenting to you. If they're doing something that you can capitalize on, and make what they think is a safe thing a mistake for them. And so that's, I don't know, I think that's kind of a cool thing to say. You know, not that you're muscling a submission, you're muscling your way into the submission, even the setup process. Just maybe back down all the muscling in general at that blue belt level. Sure, you may get a few less submissions, but they're going to be smooth when you find them. And who doesn't want to be a smooth blue belt? I guess I don't.
Exactly.
But who's a white belt who doesn't want to be a smooth blue belt?
Yeah, you want to be a smooth operator.
Man, Gary's like the DJ today. Oh, so smooth.
Definitely so smooth.
Okay, so moving down the list a little bit, he's got some good stuff on here. One of his suggestions is to drop the bad habit of not using proper gym etiquette. And I think you can break gym etiquette into two different categories. And the one is good hygiene, clip your nails, don't walk on the mats with your shoes. You know, those kind of things. You should be able to learn those the first week or two, and that should be dealt with. And then he talks, though, a little bit about visiting other schools. And, you know, some gyms, it's taboo for a white belt to ask an upper belt to roll. And some gyms are pretty formal in the way they address the instructor. And, you know, my suggestion with that is if you're visiting other places, I always err on the side of the more conservative. And I feel free to ask people. You know, if I'm the lowest belt rank in class and it's open mat and I'm not sure, I'll just ask somebody else, is it appropriate to ask an upper belt to roll here? And that's just the best way to deal with that, I found.
That's a good point, Joe. Never be afraid to ask. As we were talking about earlier, people are definitely going to be friendly to you and help you out. So if you don't know, ask. One that really got me all the time, especially when I first started, not tapping out of pride. And when I first started, I was very competitive. I was younger, thought I was...
you tried to be competitive.
Yeah, tried to be competitive. Yeah, tried to be competitive, definitely. Yeah, because I wasn't competitive. But, you know, I had that ego. Joe mentioned it earlier, when we were talking. But, ego can be a very bad thing. And the one thing I try to tell younger individuals now is, don't be like me, especially when you first start. You know, don't be afraid to tap out. You're going to spend more time on the mat. You're going to have less injuries. Like now, as Byron knows, seeing me roll, you touch my wrist, I'll start crying. My wrists are so jacked up, they hurt. I remember Byron, when I first started, he had a very good arm bar from the guard, and I would always reach. And Byron would always, grab my arm, switch his hips, and arm bar me. And I would go home and I'd have, I'd always have to ice my elbows. And I would try to go as long as possible without tapping out. And then the bad thing is I didn't know proper first of all, out of reach, but then I didn't know how to get out. I would try to pull my arm out, which is, pulling my arm straight, making it even worse. So definitely never be afraid to tap. Tapping's good. Tapping's normal. It's going to happen. Everybody taps. Lower belt can tap a higher belt. So, don't have that ego. Don't be afraid to tap and spend more time on the mats.
Yeah, and there's a lot in this article that we're not covering, but I want to hit one real quick. He talks about tapping to pressure. I'm going to push back on this one a little bit, like when you're doing pressure, you push back. He's talking about, hey, you're now, if you're a blue belt, you need to learn how to deal with that, and just not just tap because somebody's uncomfortable. Deal with the pressure. And I gotta say, I'm not trying to speak negatively or highly of myself or negatively of anybody else. I can get most blue belts to tap from pressure, and whether they want to or not, they have to breathe. And if you can't breathe long enough, you just tap. And especially if you feel like actually damage is happening in your body, you should tap. So, just tapping because you feel stuck, tapping because it's uncomfortable, try to deal with it. But if you feel like you're actually going to get damaged, or you are going to, have a full-out panic attack because you can't breathe, or, pass out or whatever, that's okay. Clearly, somebody who's applying that much pressure knows what they're doing, and they're not going to be shocked that you tap. So I don't know, tap anytime you want. A big part of this is that it should be enjoyable. And if you're having long rounds of just getting smashed, you need to find people that train with you that don't do that to you, or feel free to tap and say, hey, let's restart this because that sucked, because it does suck sometimes.
I suppose, Byron, you could put a qualifier to that last point and it make a little more sense in my mind. To not be tapping the pressure with teammates who are relatively the same size and same skill level as you. If you're a 180-pound blue belt, you should have answers for most of the pressure that another 180-pound blue belt will give you.
Yeah, but I still feel if you want to tap, that's what it's there for. It's a little disappointing to get tapped out by somebody who's lighter than you and not as skilled, but I don't know.
It happens.
It happens, yeah. And to make a big deal out of it, don't. I could see fighting a little bit longer and trying to hold out. Yeah, this shouldn't be happening, and you fight a little longer. That's what happens usually when I get choked unconscious. I don't think this is going to happen like this, and I'm asleep. I should have tapped, but I don't know. I always have a little bit of a hesitation to tell somebody when not to tap.
Fair enough.
Yeah, definitely check out that article. We have a link to it on show notes, TikTokBJJ.com. Hey, this week we're going to turn the tables just a tad. Joe and I have an audio book that we're going to talk about that Byron's coming out with.
Yes, I've been working so hard on this.
He's come out with a couple, and today we've talked about pressure, and Byron's talked about a bunch of stuff with pressure, but I don't think a lot of you know this. But the title of his audio book is "My Secret Life as a Pulmonary Diabolical Surgeon," and basically he's got case studies of unsuspecting grapplers who he has deflated and inflated their lungs, and he's going to tell all about that and tell all about things he's done to get better at making people so they can't breathe. And I never knew Byron was a diabolical pulmonary surgeon, but it's something that came up when I did a little research online. Well, among other things that came up online, but that has to do with sheep and goats, and we'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah,
that's in his next book.
Man, yeah, it's important to really work on that rib cage, and why not just get that lung to just deflate with that tension pneumothorax, where they have air is filling it in on the other side of their lung, and it just presses up against that, and it really is uncomfortable. So this book really disguises how to bring a penetrating object onto the mat, disguise it in your shorts.
Boy, you're talking about you only have to penetrate about an inch, though, right?
Okay.
It's a ballpoint pen.
Hide it somewhere on your body, and just by penetrating the ribs in a certain spot there, it's going to cause that sucking chest wound which is going to make it literally impossible to breathe out of that side. Now, I do talk a lot about being ethical while you do this. You don't want to do this to both sides of the lungs, because a lot of times that's going to be fatal. But just to one lung, it's just a lung. I mean, what's the big deal? Like we're saying, don't complain about too much pressure. Don't tap to that. Don't tap to one lung being collapsed while you're trying to compete and do jiu-jitsu. So yeah, just that quick little puncture to the ribs there. And man, this is probably the most sickening book I've ever been a part of. Why is mine so much meaner than your guys' books?
Byron, I want to hear about how you reinflate the lung. Do you also have a bicycle pump in your shorts?
Okay, here's the deal.
Well, he's got a different type of pump in there.
Now, you have to let the air out. The air is trapped, and it is actually medical stuff, but the air has to come out of there, and there's only one way it's coming out. It's through a hole in the rib cage. So yet again, poke a hole, and you're going to need a lot of times just a piece of plastic will do to keep air from going back into the rib cage and inflating. So it's kind of a bandage that has plastic, and you take the plastic off, it fills up with air, and then when you attach the plastic to the wound there, it'll let the air. You need to leave a place that the air could kind of come out of that. Like on the side, you don't tape it down all four sides. You leave one of the sides open, and it will kind of burp itself and let it do its thing, man. But really, at that point, you're taking them to the hospital because you've done it good, my friend. That'll get you to the next round for sure.
Definitely.
I've got just one more question for you.
Yes.
How's the BJJ Bricks legal representation? Because somebody's going to try this.
Yeah. Legally, don't do this because you'll probably kill somebody.
Don't try this at home or at the gym or anywhere else.
Yeah, or on anything, even a balloon. Don't do it to balloon. So that's where we're going to start this thing. We're not liable if you pop a balloon this way.
Yeah, but I like your last case study when you did a study on yourself.
Yeah.
And can you tell the audience why you removed your two bottom ribs on each side of your body?
Gary, I know where you're going with this thing, and it is not true. Before I removed my bottom ribs, I could still triangle myself. It's really amazing. And now that I've done that, I could even triangle myself with both arms. Gary, I don't know how to say this without taking this whole episode to the next. Because
I heard after you took those ribs out from each side, somebody said you didn't come out of your room for hours.
I can't really comment on that, Gary.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually a thing. I don't think people have ever had their ribs removed to do anything to have any sort of benefit.
But the good thing is you attempted it. You did it just to see if there was any benefits. So, that was nice of you to, be an explorer. Your curiosity, got you, so you learned. Use curiosity, which was more important than your bravery.
I'm not sure what Byron's supposed to have been trying to do with this, but I imagine he was just a few inches too short.
Man.
But definitely check that out. I mean, it's going to be great, for President's Day presents. People will love that. So it's going to be an awesome book. And, I think it's something that a lot of medical schools could use, your case studies and help them become better pulmonary surgeons.
Yeah, that's true. And as far off as this episode has been at times, it's the last one of the month, and that's why I don't think we mention that. That's why we have a topic episode, like a breakdown of the topic, like pressure, and really just explore it at a little more depth. And that's what we're doing here. Also, I think it's important to mention our sponsor one more time, Health IQ. Despite all that you've heard today about damaging each other, really, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has been recognized as a way to promote a healthy lifestyle and help you live longer via that healthy lifestyle. So check out the link in the show notes to go to the Health IQ thing, and you'll take a little quiz and see if you qualify. And trust me, if you train hard and you're really getting into this jiu-jitsu stuff, you'll probably do great, and you'll surprise yourself. It's kind of a fun quiz, and see where you rank as far as how they view you as a healthy person. And then you qualify for their life insurance, and it is at a discounted rate because they are looking for customers, clients that have healthy lifestyles and insuring those. So you kind of take yourself out of the pool with all the people who don't train anything. They're training Netflix, or they're training on watching TV, and you're putting yourself with the people who are on the mat, who are on the track, who are on their bikes, doing things that are healthy, and you'll save a ton of money. You'll get great life insurance in the process. Win-win.
Exactly. You wouldn't want to pay the same rate of car insurance as the guy that's getting in an accident every other year and a speeding ticket every year. So don't pay the price of life insurance. It's the same as people who are smoking, sitting on the couch and not getting any exercise. You get rewarded for the work you're putting in.
Definitely get your free quote today. We have a link to it on the show note, healthiq.com/BJJ If you happen to call them, mention the promo code BJJ when you talk to your Health IQ agent.
Yep, and then talk to them about jiu-jitsu a little bit too. Make sure that they are at least aware of how great jiu-jitsu is. Be that person. Convert somebody on the phone to at least trying jiu-jitsu.
Well, you figure, they are all health conscious people there. They have a gym in there. They do not allow you to drink soda. Don't allow you to have candy bars. So, they don't just talk the talk. They walk the walk. And I bet there are people that there have trained jiu-jitsu, but it's always, maybe we can convert a couple people. So can't go wrong with that.
There you go. I want to thank our Patreon supporters. They are our founding support. Really. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, most of them are contributing $1 per episode of the show. They're saying, hey, this is fun. I get a lot out of this. I really feel like it's helping my jiu-jitsu or helping my motivation. It's helping me do something I want to do. We'll sign up on Patreon. There'll be a link in the show notes. You get a free gi patch and a sticker in the mail. You have to provide an address because I actually mailed this out to you myself. You'll be invited to a BJJ Brick private Facebook group. Kind of have to have Facebook for that, but send me a message and I'll get you added to that. And you get our big thank you as you provide us continuing support on the show. And yeah, Patreon has saved this show before, and they're really helping make this show grow to something that we never thought that it could be. And as we continue to grow and get better, we do have an announcement, gentlemen.
Oh, I'm excited. Let's hear all about it.
Sounds so sincere.
I am excited, actually.
Yeah, we all are. We're having really the first official BJJ Break event, and it's happening in June. Officially, June 23rd, June 24th. June 23rd in Wichita, Kansas. I guess the whole thing's in Wichita, Kansas. We're going to have Tim Sled and Rolly Delgado are going to be here teaching seminars. There's going to be a kid seminar, adult seminar. Man, it's going to be awesome. Those are two guys that have had a big impact on my game. I have yet to meet Tim Sled, but my leg drag, which is my favorite guard pass, was taught to me by Tim Sled on his DVD. Had him on the show several times. Same with Rolly Delgado, multiple-time guest. Amazing person. Both of them super nice people and super good at jiu-jitsu. June 24th, the BJJ Brick crew will be leading the way. It's a Sunday. We're going to be teaching a class, a seminar, whatever. I don't know for sure what we're going to do. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be having a good time with you. Also looking at June 22nd, unofficially, possibly open mat. Not for sure how that'll go, but people here that for the 3-day weekend, that'll be available as well. We got a lot going on here, trying to encourage people to come from out of town. Of course, we want all of our local Wichita friends to be there. But if you are coming from out of town, let us know. Possibly, looking at anything more than 100 miles of travel, we might be giving out free DVDs to you guys, just as a thank you for being willing to hop on the road or hop on a plane and come train with us. That's amazing. And anything that we could do to help make that a little easier. I review DVDs on YouTube all the time. Not all the time, several. I've reviewed a lot of them. And I have them piling up in my house, and I got to do something with them. Give them back to you guys, So it'll be first come, first serve. If you're thinking about traveling to come to this event, June 23rd, June 24th, send me a message, and I'll get you, marked for a DVD. And once you actually register, once that could happen, it'll be official, and I'll, first come, first serve. You get to pick from the big pile if you're one of the first, and if you're, you don't tell me that you're showing up, you might get one if it's any left in my gym bag by the end of the big event. But a lot going on here, gentlemen. What are you guys excited about?
I'm excited about meeting Tim Sled. That guy has got, in my opinion, a beautiful mind. I love the way he thinks about jiu-jitsu, the way he thinks about running schools, running class. Really looking forward to that. And I guess be all right that I get to meet you two guys too.
Well, Joe, you beat me to it. I was about to say I'm looking forward to meeting Joe. So crazy thing is we're on every week together and we haven't even met each other. But it's just going to be a fun weekend. If you can make it, we'd definitely appreciate you coming by and getting to meet everybody, and we'll just have a good time.
Yeah, we don't know for sure. We're going to make this as much, my goal anyway, I don't know about Gary's and Joe's, to make this as much fun as possible and make it like more of seminars June 23rd with Tim and Rolly. But what happens after that? What are we doing for dinner? What are we, if we get people, wanting to hang out from out of town, we got to make this awesome. And that's really my goal. Maybe we'll do a live recording with some people there that could watch or maybe participate a little bit. That might be kind of fun. I don't know. Just as much fun as we could pack into this weekend, that's my goal. And of course, most of it's going to be jiu-jitsu. But, there's a lot of other things we could do. We're looking at off-the-mat activities. Could be just getting together and hanging out, going out to eat, rock climbing wall. We're up for ideas. Really thinking whatever, part of the big part is meeting you guys and getting to know the listeners better. And this is an awesome opportunity. I'm super excited for that.
Yep, Byron was talking about getting a dunk tank and having me sit on the dunk tank, and it's $1 for the 3 shots. So that sounds fun too.
Yeah, boiling acid.
If any of the listeners are up for it, just get with Byron. He can set it up. Gary's due for a couple more death matches, so got to get one of those going.
Yeah, as you guys all know, I'm 18, 13, and 11 in death matches. I think that's a pretty good record.
Yep, and so far everybody's lived that, even when he's won. Wow, I'm impressed. But we'll be signing Garrett for death matches. I'll be recording that. Obviously, we'll do some videos and stuff like that and put them on the YouTube channel. I don't know. We're just gonna have a blast, and this is the first of hopefully maybe an annual thing. We don't know, but I don't want to miss it. This is something. It's in June, late June, so mark your calendars. June 23rd, 24. We'll hope to see you guys there. What's been helping us a ton is by telling your friends about the podcast. And because you've done that, I know you've done that, possibly, on your trip up here to Wichita, you're able to have a carload of buddies instead of just driving by yourself. Either way, we're happy you're going to make it. But tell your friends about us, about the podcast, more importantly, not just us. And hopefully they'll enjoy it as well and get something from it. And we'll all get to grow together. Oh, that kind of sucked.
That'll be on our outtakes.
No, I'm leaving that in the intake.
Byron always leaves stuff in the intake.
Oh, man. This is the last episode of the month. Thanks for checking this out. The last episode of the month is followed by the first episode of next month, which we always want to try to pack in a little more podcasting action every chance we get. So the first week of the month, we're trying to bring out 2 episodes. That's what we're going for here. So hopefully the next episode will be our BJJ Extra, which is really spearheaded by Joe. He's going to be bringing you some stuff. What do we got, Joe?
Yeah, I interviewed 3 guys that I train with. One of the ideas that you and I threw around when we talked about doing the extra episode was to do a technique episode, and it's hard to teach a technique on a video or an audio podcast. So I just had these guys come on and talk about a technique they've been having some success with, and we just kind of got into it a little bit and looking at some of the finer details that made them work. So I'm excited about it.
Man, that's cool. I'm excited about that too, and we have different kind of segments built with this, and we had a lot of fun with our last one, and everybody seemed to love it. So BJJ Extra, or BJJ Brick Extra, I guess, is what we're calling this. And we're scheduling them for the first week of the month, and we'll probably also be producing our regularly scheduled Monday episode as well, unless they fall on the same day. Then we'll figure that out when we get there.
Burn that bridge when we get to it.
Check us out on social media. Facebook is our biggest one, followed by YouTube, and basically anywhere you are social, we want to be there as well. Got to thank Joe for doing a lot of stuff on Facebook. He's really getting the conversation going and having a lot of fun there.
And don't forget to download the BJJ Brick app.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to get every week's episode. Just come to you automatic.
We figured out, so the problem with the app is that it literally made your phone heavy like a brick, and we've taken that out of the app, so it adds no actual weight to your phone, which is very nice. So a lot of high-tech stuff going on behind the scenes here.
That was some of that magic pressure.
I had a blast this week, my friends. Stay sweaty.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, get better. We'll see you on the mats, guys.
Under Pressure.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, definitely get your free quote today at healthiq.com/unique link, and we'll have a link to it right there on the show notes. Or if you happen to call them, definitely mention promo code unique link when you talk to your Health IQ agent. So definitely get your free quote today.
Hey, Gary, the unique link is BJJ Brick. That's just like a generic...
Okay, let's start this over.
You were doing so good, though, man.
You know, I have to be one of the top 5 dumbest guys around. But
hey, there's only 3 of us here, Gary. Give yourself a little credit. Thanks so much for checking out this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Check us out next week. And don't forget to check out the archives at bjbrick.com or on this YouTube channel.